At the beginning of last week's Torah portion, there's a perplexing story, the famous story of the spies. The Jews are ready to go into the land of Israel, and they say to Moshe, no, we got to wait. We have to send spies ahead of us to seek out the land, explore the land, what's the best way to approach, to attack, and so on. They come back with a very negative report. They say, we can't do it. Wait a second. You just experienced the 10 plagues, the miraculous 10 plagues. You left Egypt, the splitting of the sea, receiving the Torah, eating the manna, the clouds of glory, the well that supplies you with water, that travels with you in the desert. All these miracles. And suddenly, when it comes to the land of Israel, God can't do it. How do we understand this? Explains the classical 19th century commentator, the Netziv, that of course they knew God could do it. But there are two ways of Hashem, of God relating to this world. There's Hashem relating to the world in Lamayla Min HaTeva, above nature, the miraculous, and Betoch HaTeva, within nature. The experience of being in the desert and what seemingly would be going into the land of Israel would be an experience of Lamayla Min HaTeva, above nature. The problem is, when Hashem relates to you above nature, He expects you to knock it up a notch as well. Not just to be like a regular person within nature, but to go a higher level. Hashem says, that's what I expect. And the response the Jewish nation has is, we can't do that. There's too much being expected of us. We can't do that. Therefore, relate to us within nature. Now, if we're being related to within nature, we need to be pragmatic. We need to know whether we can conquer this land or not, whether we can go in, what's the best way to do it, will we survive? And we have to act accordingly. So what did they do wrong? They said the level above nature is too much for us. We're not holding there. That's not where we're up to. We have to be real. We have to be authentic. That's not where we're at. So we want the lower level because that's what we're up to. What's wrong with that? I believe the mistake is in listening. We have to learn to listen. You know, there are three ways to listen in life. The first way to listen, which is the way most people listen, is they don't listen. They don't listen. People talk, people don't hear what they're saying. We look down at our phone, we're at the computer screen, we're spacing out, maybe even we fall asleep, we don't hear what other people say. That's level number one. Level number two is, I listen like a trial lawyer, meaning I'm listening, I'm hearing every word you say, but I want to hear it in order to refute, to respond, to explain, and so on. I hear the words, but I don't hear what's behind the words. The deepest level is I listen like an empty vessel. There's nothing within me. All I am is an empty vessel taking in your words. And I'm completely focused and I'm trying to understand what you're saying and the intent behind the words and the message and so on. And that's something so powerful. And what happens is things can shift within me when I listen that way. When I listen the first way, so I haven't even heard what you said. When I listen the second way, I heard what you said, but I only heard it long enough to respond. That's not meaningful. That's not powerful. The third way, I listen to take it in and to reflect. And then I could see, you know what? Shockingly, maybe you're actually right. Maybe you're right. Maybe you have a point. Maybe it's not about the way I see things. Maybe it's not the way I'm doing things. And when we could do that, as difficult, it is incredibly difficult to listen and to really consider what someone else says. Particularly when you go into a conversation knowing that you want things to go a certain way. And horror of all horrors, you listen and you know what? Maybe the other person has to have a point and has a point, and I have to concede and I have to listen to what they're saying and I have to change my mind and change my approach and change my plan and so on. Big implications. It takes gevura, it takes power to do that. The Jewish nation was on an awesomely great level. And while I can't necessarily explain why they did what they did, I can tell you the message that I take from it. The message I could take is that they were not listening. It means they heard the words of Hashem. Hashem said, go up to the land, you'll be able to, you'll succeed. But they didn't believe it. They didn't believe us, these small, insignificant people, we have the ability to arise to a level of above nature and relating to God and responding to Him. No, we can't do that. That's impossible. That's not us. That's where we went wrong. Listen to what's being said. Hear it. Take it in. And when you do, then you can shift. You can shift and things will look differently. And you find out that you have power within yourself you didn't realize. I've mentioned a lot in the last number of days that I despise getting involved in politics and talking about politics, and I don't. I try to resist it as much as possible, and I have no intention of discussing any politics here on this Torah Gone Viral. What I think is missing is listening to what other people say and considering it, not immediately degrading the other person, belittling their words and what they say. No, consider, reflect on what the other person's saying. We need to have a civil way of talking to other people, respectfully explaining our position, whatever it might be politically or in life and so on, and also being able to consider what the other person said. I was once speaking to a young lady who was dating, and she's very concerned that if the next date wouldn't go well, that she'd have to tell this fellow that she didn't want to go on another date with him, and she was extremely stressed. I said, actually, I think it's a great opportunity that if the next date doesn't go well, I was hoping, of course, it would go well. I said, if it doesn't go well, I think it's a great opportunity for you to look this young man in the eye and say, it was really a pleasure spending time with you. This is not going to work. I wish you all the best. Respectful, direct communication is so healthy. And on the other hand, to be able to take it in when he might tell her that the same thing. He had a wonderful time. He thinks she's wonderful. It's not going to work. He wishes her all the best. And being able to take that in, being able to listen and communicate is so healthy. Hashem says, you could go up. You can go above nature. Believe me. I'm telling you, you're that good. You have it within you. And the response is, no, I can't do that. What a tragedy. That's why we wound up in the desert for 40 years. Let's take this lesson. Let's learn from this lesson and let's listen. Let's believe and let our plans shift and align based on what other people are saying when we really take in what they're saying.